So this kind of begs the question, what is the type of list.head? I mean, it can't just be one of these, right? It can't be list.head takes a list of strings and returns a maybe string, or list.float and returns a maybe float, or even list.bool returns a maybe bool, because it's all of those. Depending on how it's used, it ends up with a different type parameter. How does that work? So the answer is that it has what's known as a type variable. So this is the type of list.head. It's list elem, with a lowercase e, to maybe elem, which also has a lowercase e. So here, elem is a type variable. It's a name that I chose. I could have chosen any name that I wanted. I could have also annotated it this way, list val to maybe val, or even just list v to maybe v. All of these type annotations do exactly the same thing. The critical piece is that A, it's lowercase, so the lowercase part means it's a variable, not a concrete type, like the uppercase types that we've normally seen in type annotations up to this point, and B, that they agree. So this is saying, I have a list of some things, and that gives me back a maybe of the same sort of thing. Same thing with head, same thing with val. If I've chosen the name val here, that's all well and good, but this one needs to agree with that. It's saying that whatever that type turns out to be, when I actually call this function, that's the maybe I'm going to get back. And that's how we can have this flexibility, where if I give it a list of strings, it gives me back a maybe string. If I give it a list of floats, it gives me back a maybe float, and so forth. But I can pick any number of different names here that I want. These are called type variables. These things in blue here, the lowercase one is a type variable. Okay. So these come up in a number of different circumstances. So list.reverse is another one. This takes a list of, again, here I happen to choose the name item. Could have also chosen val or v or elem. So it takes a list of items and returns a list of the same type of items. So if I give list.reverse a list of strings, it will give me back also a list of strings, just in reverse order. I can also use that on numbers if I want. That's totally fine. I can also use list.singleton, which takes a single value and then returns a list of those values. It basically just wraps it up. It's the same thing as putting square brackets around it, except in the form of a function. Oh yeah, and here's an example of list.singleton. Cool. Okay, so this is list.head. So what is the type of maybe? How is that actually defined as a custom type? So we can say type maybe equals just and nothing, but we know that it's not just an enumeration. There actually is some data being held onto there. And that data is represented as a type variable. So it says type maybe val equals just val or nothing. In other words, what's stored in the just is not fixed. It's not a string, it's not an int, it's not a float. It depends entirely on the maybe. It's a little bit more flexible than that. So this allows us to have maybes of different types, of different shapes. Maybe can be used on strings, on ints, on floats, on whatever you want, depending on the circumstance. And because we have a type variable up here as well, it says when I call list.head, the type of this variant is going to end up depending on the elements in this list. If I call list.head with a list of strings, this maybe is going to hold on to just a string or nothing. Call with a list of floats, just a float or nothing.